Quincy this morning, learning about running.
Yes, I am. I am here outside of Starbucks where the running group Heartland Runners are getting ready for their Friday run. They're right behind me and they are all here bright and early getting ready to get started, and they're about to take off for their Friday morning run. There they go. Those are some dedicated runners there because it is really chilly outside. With me now is Brian Paulman, a running coach with New Fit. Now, most of these runners in the Heartland Runners group, they're training for a marathon, correct?
That's correct. Most of them are training for either a half marathon or a marathon coming up this fall.
So what are some marathons that some people locally can go to travel to?
There's several coming up in the next month or so. There's a race in Columbia called the Roots and Blues and Barbecue. It's a half marathon coming up on the 22nd. On October 7th is the big one, Chicago Marathon, which is a big event. It's a Boston qualifier. It's a flat race, a huge event. Fills up quick. That's coming up next month. Soon after that, on the 13th, there's a race called the Great River Road Half Marathon, and they're also doing a 5K, which is up in Hamilton, Illinois, and it's a point-to-point race. It starts there and it will go to the Nauvoo State Park, and then also a lot of people will be doing the St. Louis Rock and Roll Marathon the week after that.
So even if you're running a marathon or you're not a runner at all, setting goals is a really important part of getting active and starting to run.
Sure, you need to know where you're going, what you're building up to. It'll help focus your training much more if you have a goal. And I think if you're going to run a marathon or a half marathon, you really need to start pretty far out before the race. So if you're a regular runner, you want to set that goal at least 3 months out for a half marathon or 6 months out for a full marathon. And if you're a new runner, even longer than that, probably twice that.
And do you recommend runners kind of having a schedule? When I trained for my first half marathon, which was brutal, I had to do baby steps. It was a mile one here, a mile here.
Definitely, you want to gradually progress forward.
All right, well, part of also running and setting goals is also stretching. So coming up later, Brian is going to go ahead and show us some stretching techniques to make sure that keeps you free. Excuse me, I can't speak. That's going to keep you injury-free while you're setting those goals and making it to the big race.
That's fine. You have Chad Douglas syndrome this morning.
Chad Douglas what?
Syndrome. He had it yesterday, stuttering, can't speak.
Oh, the blah, blah, blah. Yes,
blah, blah,
definitely the Chad Douglas syndrome.
I love my job. Kristen is outside in the cold learning to run. Hey, Kristen.
It is chilly, but I was told that this is great weather. I cannot get it together. This is great weather for runners. Now, we just saw the running group, the Heartland Runners, take off on their Friday morning run. Now, a lot of those runners are training for a marathon. So they got to that point, but they had to really schedule themselves to get to the marathon. So if you're interested in running, you should really schedule yourself, right?
Yes, definitely. You want to have a good plan. Setting a goal is the first step, then you have to have a plan to work toward that goal. What I have most people do is run 3 times a week, 2 shorter runs and then a long run, usually on the weekends. Some people can run more than that. I usually like to keep it to 3 and then add cross training in between. That long run is the most important run because that's the one that mimics race day most. So the body learns how to metabolize fat, how to you develop muscular endurance as well. And so, like I said, that's the most important run because it mimics the race day environment.
Now, Brian here is a running coach, so he does individualized training for some runners. How important is diet during this training?
Very important. You want to have the right nutrition to support the activity. A lot of people do run to lose weight, and you can get that, but you don't want to restrict your calories, for instance, while you're running, because you really need a lot of energy to run, especially if you're going to do a marathon. If you're going to be running 10, 15, 20 miles, you need a lot of carbohydrates, for example.
I know in high school we used to have pasta parties before big races.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes, I mean that's very common, especially a lot of the big races. It's incorporated into the package, that's very important to get the carbs right before. It's also very important to get the carbs during the training, and especially that week before. You shouldn't have a carb loading night. It should be a carb loading week.
And you were saying this a little bit before, people think maybe it's just straight running, but cross training is really, really important. What are some exercises you suggest, maybe anywhere from beginner runners to marathon runners to be doing before the big race?
I think any type of other cardiovascular activity besides running is good. So if you go out and even just walking is good, swimming, cycling, rowing, anything like that that's going to develop that cardiovascular system without the wear and tear that's caused by running as well.
And speaking of wear and tear, we are going to teach you some stretching techniques to keep your muscles and keep you safe before you head to that starting line for the big race.
All right, we will see you shortly as the weather cools.
Yes, Kristen Aguirre is live this morning. She is talking about how to train for a marathon. Good morning, Kristen.
Stretch out.
Yes, we just learned earlier in the show how you have to set goals. So if you haven't ever ran, just go ahead and set that goal of running, whether it's your 5K or for some of the Heartland runners that are out here running this morning, they're actually running half marathons and full marathons. With me now is Brian Paulman, a running coach, to give us some tips on strength training and stretching. So if you're starting off with running, or whether you're a beginner or you're advanced, strength training is important.
It's definitely very important. Doing a lot of cardio can actually, you can actually lose muscle mass by doing too much cardio and not tempering that with strength training. And also strength training specifically for running is very important to prevent some common injuries.
Okay, so you're gonna tell me some strength training moves I can do.
Sure. The ones I like, I usually start people out with any type of lunge. Lunges are good, forward lunges are good, side lunges are good. I really like a 45-degree angle lunge. So instead of going forward or the side, you're gonna go out at about a 45-degree angle, down and back up. And you wanna keep your feet pointing forward. And that's important.
Fancy running pants this
It's
morning.
perfect. So that's important because that activates those hip muscles that we really need to strengthen. Also, anything on one leg is good. So you can just hop on one leg, that will help. I really like a one-legged squat.
This is hard if you're
Very good.
uncoordinated like.
There you go. And I also like a one-legged toe touch, like so. Or you can do it with both hands. Yeah, we're working on balance as well.
Okay, and also stretching, really important?
Stretching is really important as well. For runners in particular, you will definitely want to stretch your calves out. So you'll stretch you're gonna stretch the back leg, and you're going to just lean forward, keeping your heel down, go as far as you can. You should feel that in your upper calf.
Yeah,
You want to hold that for about 30 seconds to improve your flexibility. You can also do that with a bent knee to get the deeper fibers. Okay, so that's very important. You also, funnily enough, you want to have a flexible big toe, which if you're doing the lunges, you should get that though.
Okay, and what else is really important for runners to take in?
You definitely want to have good running form. Any problem, any fault in your form will be amplified over those long miles. So you really want to address form early on when you start becoming a runner. I do running analysis to help people do that. It starts with a strength and flexibility screen, followed by some video filming on the treadmill, and I slow it down to look at it and then break it down and tell them how they can improve their form so they can prevent injury, and so they're more economical as well.
All right, perfect. So once you got your strength training down, your running form down, and you stretched out, you need to make sure that you have the proper attire and the proper gear, whether it's gym shoes or even clothing. So coming up later in the show, Brian's going to go ahead and cover that with us.
Bright blue pants are definitely a necessity.
Sorry, I'm stretching my big toe.
Oh, they are. You got to look good and feel good.
Yeah, we're stretching our big toes here, trying to get big toe flexibility.
Getting them all in shape.
I stretched mine before the segment, so that's why I didn't do it on camera.
So you're good. Kristen Aguirre is live this morning in Quincy.
Yeah, she's learning about marathon training and some tips from a local running coach. Kristen, what are you up to?
Hi, so this morning we've been taking you kind of on our little marathon of our own. We've started straight from the beginning where it was we had you set your goal for your running. Then we went through strength training and how scheduling your run. And now we're gonna cover gear. So with me now is Brian Paulman, a running coach here in Quincy. So what should what are your top 4 things our runners should have?
You start with shoes, of course. That's the most important thing. And if you're just starting, you want to start with a pair of shoes that is based on your foot type. That's a good place to start. A lot of times people aren't wearing the shoe based on their foot type, and that's fine if it's working for them. If I've talked to a runner who's been running for several years and it's in a shoe that might not be the right one, if it's working for them, I'm not going to tell them to change. But I would say go to a good shoe store and find out what fits your foot to start off with. The second thing is good clothing. I recommend technical clothing like a dry fit, that sort of thing, Under Armour, because it wicks and it keeps you cool, it keeps you comfortable, and it's really worth the extra money to spend on that. The next thing is a watch. You can just use a regular Ironman watch, but I really like my GPS watch. I can get a lot of information from it, and it's a good training tool. I can get my speed, my distance, and it kind of makes things pretty easy when I just walk out the door and go out for my first run. And then in addition to that, for longer runners, they might want a fuel belt so they can take their gels with them, or whatever nutrition they've got, and also, in addition to that, a handheld water bottle.
So if you're new to running, can you tell us a little bit about these gels? I know people use them to refuel through long distance running.
Sure. You need carbohydrate while you're running. So usually a pretty simple carbohydrate, and that's what gel is. It's just a pretty concentrated sugar. Some has caffeine, some has electrolytes as well. But when you're doing those long runs, you need to refuel during the run. Every 30 to 45 minutes, you need to be taking on some type of carbohydrate so you have the fuel to finish the run.
All right, perfect. All right, so coming next on our path of marathon training, we are going to take you up to the week of the actual race. So we're going to go, coming up, we're going to go through details on what you need to be doing before you head to that starting line.
Before you head into your weekend, Kristen Aguirre is here now with us. She's talking running.
Yeah, so throughout the show, we've been taking you through on this kind of training path. We started in the beginning where you set goals for yourself, and now we are at the week before the big race. So with me now is Brian Paulman, running coach here in town, who's going to tell us what we should be doing right before we head out.
Right, the last couple of weeks is sometimes a lot of runners' favorite part of the training program because they get to relax and they usually get to eat a lot. The last long run before a race should be about 2 weeks before the actual race day. So after that, it's kind of just easy running, maintenance running. You're not going to improve over the last 2 weeks. So it's easy. You can also, it's a good time to do some extra cross training, easy cross training just to recover. And then that last week, building up to the race day, you want to eat a little bit more carbohydrate, carb load the entire week, not just the day before. And then you're also getting ready for race day all week. Getting your gear ready, getting it set aside the night before, so when you wake up on race morning, it's all ready and you don't have to think about it. And then also, during your long runs all season, throughout the training program, you should have been finding out what works for you on race day, as far as your nutrition, what you eat for breakfast, what kind of gels work for you, and that sort of thing. So it should just be a day of fun on race day, so you can just enjoy all the training.
And I know you've ran a few half marathons. I've ran one. What is that feeling like when you cross that finish line?
Well, I can tell you this last year I had a really good half marathon, and I had set a big goal for myself, and I met it. I had a great time, a great finishing time, and it was incredible. I'd met all my goals. I finished with nothing left in the tank. I finished with I could not have done any better that day, and I met my goal. It was an incredible feeling.
Now, if you want to get that feeling of accomplishment, just use the tips that we have showed you this morning, whether it's from setting goals, getting out there and run, and then actually making it to that big race.
All right, thanks, Kristen, for the information.
Yeah.